Hey, what up writers? I'm Violet, I'm an aspiring YA author, and today I just wanted to do a really sort of quick casual video where I talk about sort of my process of organizing my projects in my mind about kind of balancing different multiple projects. I think it's quite common for people to make a comparison between cooking and writing. Like you hear people talking about, oh, you know, you start out with the recipe, you use a little bit of this, you use a little bit of that and see where it goes. I've made this analogy myself before, especially as a pantser and especially as a chaotic cook. It kind of fits me a little bit too well. But actually what I wanted to talk about is more of like the concept of a front burner and a back burner projects, because for me that's really how I organize multiple projects and sort of prioritize multiple projects. My last video was all my projects tag, so if you haven't seen that video, check that out to see the kind of projects that I'm going to be referencing in this video and moving on forward on my channel. Stovetop has 4 burners. And for me, what I like to do is only have sort of my one main project that I'm focusing on, my one front burner project. So I always leave the second front burner empty and then have the 2 back burner slots filled. That there's sort of one sort of space that I could move projects around with need be. So in my head at all times, I always have a front burner and at least 1, sometimes 2 back burner projects going. Kind of my palette cleanser that I need if I need that sort of creative energy. I think that's a pretty straightforward concept, the front burner and the back burner. Then I always say I have projects that are like in the fridge, that are like in Tupperware. I can take them out anytime and start slowly heating them on the back burner. I can just throw them in a pan on the front burner. Like they're ready to go at short moments notice. I wouldn't need much to grab a project out of the fridge and, you know, put a different project away, if that makes sense. Those are kind of my projects that I'm not mainly focused on. They're not kind of a priority for me. The project that would be my project in the fridge right now is the European Witch story. I could pick it up at any time, but it's not a focus of mine in any way. Then there is the freezer. And those projects are on ice with the date written on them, and do not defrost until such and such time. And that is my Portal project. I have sort of given myself a rule that I cannot work on the Portal project because that story is my magnum opus. It means so much to me. And I think it deserves a better writer. I'm not worried about it because the concept is kind of quirky. I don't think anybody would come up with something that similar. But also sort of the YA fantasy genre and the themes of the story are very evergreen. So I'm not worried about her being in the freezer. It's more about I need to work on myself. So my rule before I can defrost the Portal project is I need to finish 3 complete other drafts before I'm allowed to work on the Portal project. So she is in the freezer. And then to continue this analogy and keep going with the sort of projects in the kitchen vibe, you have the cupboard, and that's where you have sort of all your ingredients, all your sort of partial ideas. Like I mentioned, I have an idea for a vampire novel need be, but I've never really expanded that idea or really deep dove into it. Like the characters don't have names, for example, projects like that. I have several sort of partial stories, premises, cool character archetype, trope, or something that you want to work with. Those are all things that for me are in the cupboard. Those are my someday ingredients that I will be plucking and adding into stories. Also, sometimes abandoned stories go in the cupboard to be dissected and dispersed, taking what's good and leaving what's bad. My high school monster hunter story, for example, I just stole the setting from an abandoned contemporary idea that I had in high school. When I was a teenager, I had this idea for a story. The plot was not great. It didn't really hold up. But when I needed to write another contemporary story, I conveniently had like a setting and some things already worked out. So I just sort of grabbed that ingredient out of the cupboard and threw it in my front burner project, for example. And I think if we were gonna continue the analogy, I was thinking about this a lot lately. What would be the next step? And I think the next step would be, for writing, would be like beta readers, critique partners. So if we're gonna keep with the food metaphor, I would think that would be the taste tester. You have somebody taste it, give your critique, and then you go back and work on it. Yeah, does that work? I think it does. And then I think serving the food or having the food on the table would be like publication or something like that. So that's how I organize my projects in my mind. So on this channel, when I say like my front burner project, my back burner project, this is in the freezer, that's in the fridge, that's what I'm talking about. It's kind of the priority list of my stories, how I rank them, what's going on, because I need that. That's my way of balancing all these projects, is to be able to say, yes, this is my front burner, this is my focus, and have those sort of back burners as palette cleansers. I think palette cleanser is a word I use a lot too, of a project that's completely outside of what I'm currently writing, to just keep me from getting bogged down creatively. I wish that I would have used palette cleansers more in NaNoWriMo. I think that's what I'm gonna try working on incorporating into my writing process going forward, and in future Nano events I think I'm gonna do that as well. I have a lot of ideas of different things I'm gonna do on this channel, but that's how I organize my projects in my head, like the priority and balancing multiple projects. I'd be curious if other people have sort of a coding system like that, of like their priorities. I know this kitchen analogy is not a new thing, like I said, comparing it to writing, but I would be curious if anybody has any other sort of quirky, fun analogies or ways of organizing all their project ideas just to them. So that's going to be it for me today. It was a short one. I am going to be participating in the 12 days of Christmas starting on the 12th. I will link the video from Manon, who started the challenge, down below, so you can check it out and you have still time to hop in and participate if you want. It's also going on Instagram and other social medias. It's kind of just the idea of keeping up this writing momentum and community that was sort of built in NaNoWriMo, not that we all fall into a slump, so that we're just staying out there, we're still part of it. So look forward to that coming on my channel, and I will see you then on Saturday for the 12th. Bye.